My name is Terrence Raynor. I'm the Deputy Police Commissioner for the Westchester County Department of Public Safety. Today I'm joined on the dais by our County Executive, Mr. George Latimer, our Westchester County District Attorney, Mimi Roca. I see James Nolan is here. Forgot the title. County Legislator, James Nolan. From the Yorktown Police Department, we have Chief Robert Noble. From the Putnam County Sheriff's Department, we have Sheriff Kevin McConville. And from the New Rochelle Police Department, Commissioner Robert Gazzola. In addition to those individuals, I have a host of law enforcement professionals from throughout our region who are here. And we are here to brief you on the operation that culminated Tuesday with the arrest of 12 individuals, and you can see some of the evidence that's off to my right. In June of 2021, the police departments of Westchester, along with the Westchester County District Attorney's Office and the FBI, created a task force to address an influx of illegal firearms into the Westchester County region. Detectives in the multi-agency real-time crime center were tasked with finding innovative ways to reduce gun crimes in our communities. Working with our partners in the District Attorney's Office, the FBI Safe Streets Task Force, the NYPD, the Putnam County Sheriff's Office, and the Rockland County District Attorney's Office, the Real-Time Crime Center developed a plan to target those individuals believed to be importing illegal firearms into our communities. Special attention was paid towards persons who were known to be involved in violent crimes, including convicted felons and persons convicted of domestic violence who are prohibited from possessing firearms. Over the next several months, investigators in the Real-Time Crime Center worked countless hours investigating those individuals. A combined effort by all involved agencies was made to assist our analysts and detectives in making individual cases. Prosecutors from the Westchester District Attorney's Office and the Southern District of New York provided guidance and case experience as the cases progressed. Detectives from the target jurisdictions attended group case meetings held periodically by the Real-Time Crime Center, where they analyzed the case intelligence developed in each jurisdiction. The 6-month investigation culminated on Tuesday when a task force of more than 120 investigators from over 20 different agencies executed 10 search warrants in 8 different locations throughout Westchester and Putnam counties. The results speak volumes to the power of collaboration in law enforcement and the benefits of intel-driven precision policing. When law enforcement agencies work together, more is accomplished. Over 100 handguns and rifles were recovered during this investigation. 12 persons were arrested and are facing a variety of state and federal charges. In addition, body armor, numerous high-capacity ammunition magazines were recovered. A high-capacity magazine of this same type that was used just last week in the murders of 2 New York City police officers. At this time, I'm going to ask some of our guests to offer remarks. We will have a question and answer session related to this topic only. If you have questions of any of our guests regarding another topic, we will certainly ask them to step aside and you can interview them directly. So first, I'd like to start with our county executive, Mr. George Latimer.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Those of us in general government and those of us who are civilians owe a great debt of gratitude to the men and the women in this room of law enforcement and those with prosecutorial professionalism. What we look at this table, for those of us who are civilians, is a sobering reminder of what tools exist out there to commit crimes and to commit death. We have the terrible example this week when we put to rest 2 New York City police officers who were responding to a civilian complaint and lost their lives. And the men and women who are trained and often graduate in this very room and go out to serve as police professionals, law enforcement professionals, are trained, but at the same time, we hope that they never have to deal with a situation like happened earlier this week, last week, and they have to deal with situations that are generated by those weaponry. We owe a debt of gratitude to those men and women of law enforcement, and in this particular case, the professionalism that was used intergovernmentally between Putnam County and Westchester County. And those of us in Westchester County salute our brothers, our sisters in Putnam County for their fine work, working side by side. All of the local police departments of Westchester County, there are 40 altogether, in addition to the County Department of Public Safety, led by Commissioner Gleason, Deputy Commissioner Rayner, Chief Hodges, who's with us, Chief Calabrese, and the other leaders of that department, that they were able to work cooperatively in this type of an action. And I presume that it took a great degree of planning and a great degree of secrecy to make sure that the raids were effective and accomplished the mission at hand, which is to get these guns off the streets and to stop those people who might be planning certain actions from being able to execute those plans. We owe a debt of gratitude to the District Attorney, Mimi Rocha, who will speak right after me, and also to the federal prosecutors. We have all watched the television show Law and Order, and they remind us that there are 2 separate branches that bring us law and order, and that both of them have to work in harmony for this to happen. And so we too are grateful for this. This is why Westchester County has fully funded the County Police Department at $52.8 million this year, because we need all of the professionalism that we can get. I also want to thank the members of the legislature, County Board of Legislators. Jim Nolan, who's a new member of that board, is with us today. He and his colleagues supported that funding. And that is a commitment from the civilian authorities to the law enforcement authorities that we stand behind you as you deal with the people who either do or plan to do crime against people. At the end of the day, Westchester County, last we had statistics, had a drop in violent crime. Don't know what it is as of today, but the last time we looked last year, we had a drop in violent crime. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens because professionals in the law enforcement community use the intel and the resources together, and in this case, preventively, to stop things before they happen, not just deal with them as they happen or after they've happened. And so therefore, we salute the men and women of law enforcement, the men and women of our prosecutorial branch, and we hope to continue to be able to work with them so that they can continue to stay ahead of the game and prevent what could have happened from happening.
Thank you, County Exec. Next, I'll ask our Westchester County District Attorney, Mimi Rocha, to say some words, and perhaps she could update us on some of the charges that the individuals will face in this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. As we all know, gun violence is an epidemic in our country, in our state. While we here in Westchester, as County Executive Latimer alluded to, have thankfully not seen the spike in shootings that we've seen in other parts of the state, we are not immune from gun violence. Just yesterday, tragically, my office charged a teenager. A teenager was shooting another teen in New Rochelle. There are too many guns on our streets, and they're getting into the wrong hands. That is why law enforcement actions like this one are so crucially important to public safety, to our communities. This operation alone, as Chief Rayner said, took over 100, well over 100 firearms, including ghost guns, defaced firearms, high-capacity magazines, out of commission. And any one of those guns could have wreaked havoc in our communities. Among the weapons that were seized and the paraphernalia that was recovered were bulletproof vests, an NYPD shield, and a high-capacity drum magazine like the one, as was mentioned, was used in the horrific murder of 2 young, brave NYPD officers last week. The operation here was focused not just on guns, but guns owned by people who are prohibited from doing so under the law. So we didn't just get guns off the street, we got them away from people who are not supposed to have them. Now, law enforcement work like this doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen quickly. It's the result of well-coordinated, well-executed, multi-agency operations and cooperation. It takes meticulous planning and cooperation, and I want to applaud every police department here, and those aren't here, who participated, who contributed, every law enforcement agency, the FBI Safe Streets Task Force, the U.S. Attorney's Office. I know what it takes to make this happen. It is a monumental task. Thank you. And thank you to the NYPD, who helped launch this enforcement action in Westchester and around the state through their intelligence and initiative. This effort grew out of, here in Westchester, the Gun and Gang Initiative that we announced and established last summer in partnership with federal, county, and local law enforcement agencies. The goal of that initiative was to prevent violent crime utilizing, as Chief Rayner mentioned, precision policing and precision prosecution models to target priority individuals and to seize guns and paraphernalia strategically to help our communities, keep our communities and law enforcement safe. And that's exactly what we did here in this operation. Now, the top charge that we will be bringing at the state level in this case is criminal possession of a weapon in the first degree, a violent felony, which has exposure up to 25 years in prison. There also are federal charges resulting from an arrest in Putnam, because as I said, some of the targets here were prohibited persons, all of the targets, and therefore some of them are federally eligible. I'd like to also take this opportunity to recognize the team of investigators from my office who worked hand in hand with our law enforcement partners to plan and execute this operation. With me today is Chief Investigator Daniel McKenna and Deputy Chief Investigator Andy Gracia. And I'd also like to recognize the ADAs from my office who aren't here because they're busy in court, from our Violent Criminal Enterprise Bureau, who worked tirelessly this week to make sure that these searches, seizures, and arrests could happen. And thank you, of course, to our county executive for his support of law enforcement. And thank you again to law enforcement for this and for everything you do every day to help keep us safe. Thank you.
Thank you, DA Rocha. At this time, I'd like to ask our Yorktown Police Chief, Chief Noble, to come say a few words.
Thank you, Deputy. Good morning, everyone. Today, I speak on behalf of the Westchester County Chiefs of Police Association, as well as the Yorktown Police Department, to emphasize that with collaboration and teamwork, days like this are possible. To rid our Westchester communities of over 100 illegally possessed firearms just made all of us who call Westchester County home that much safer. As of January 24th this year, according to a report in the Washington Times, a police officer has been shot nearly every day this year as a growing wave of shootings and other attacks across the country claimed the lives of 4 officers in less than 1 month. Through the first 24 days of the year, gunmen have opened fire on cops 22 times. Close to home, we mourn the deaths of NYPD officers Jason Rivera and Wilbert Mora. We need to rid our communities of illegally possessed firearms, and we need to lock up the criminals who own and sell these illegal firearms. And lastly, once we arrest these criminals, we need them to serve hard time. The Westchester County Chiefs of Police Association is proud of the collaborative effort that made Operation Casper such a success. The Westchester County Real-Time Crime Center continues to make a positive difference on the front lines of intelligent crime fighting in Westchester County. We recognize the commitment of our law enforcement partners at the FBI and the Office of the Westchester County District Attorney to share their talent and resources again to keep the citizens of Westchester County safe. That's my prepared statement. But I got to see firsthand Tuesday morning members of the Yorktown Police Department Detective Division, led by Lieutenant James Graham, and some of the detectives are here, and Sergeant Mark Rapisarda, work seamlessly with members of the Westchester County Real-Time Crime Center, the Westchester County Special Response Team, members of the Office of the District Attorney, their investigators, and Brendan Kenny, who's back there, and the FBI Safe Streets Task Force. To see that happen and to witness it firsthand, I will tell everybody who lives in Westchester County, you have an outstanding community of law enforcement, ready and willing to take down these hardened criminals, recover the firepower that you see here before you, and work, again, seamlessly and together. No egos, ready to go out there and do the police work that's needed. I'd like to compliment Deputy Commissioner Raynor for making this day happen. Chief John Hodges, thank you very much for your teamwork. DA Roca, thank you very much. And the FBI, Brendan Kenny, thank you so much for your talent and all your effort in making a day like this possible. Thank you. Let's all stay safe out there.
Thanks, Chief. And now the newly minted sheriff from Putnam County, Kevin McConville.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. Good morning. On those tables are an example of what happens when law enforcement collaborates and cooperates. It's not unprecedented, but as we get better and better at it, you see the results increase. From the prosecutors to all the law enforcement agencies, the Real-Time Crime Center, its analysts, its members, its investigators, and from my agency, Senior Investigator John Kerwick, I want to express our thanks and gratitude in making our communities much safer. Eventually, we'll be able to prevent needless deaths as exhibited by the deaths of Rivera and Mora from NYPD last week. Had we able to continue this, you'll see a reduction in crime and violent crime in particular. But it takes all of us. It starts with one and elevates itself to the many. And this is a prime example of all the different law enforcement communities throughout Westchester and Putnam County that are involved in these type of actions and enforcement energies to ensure that the public is safe and our communities remain safe, as well as our police officers. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much, and let's keep it going. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff McConville. And now we'll hear from the Police Commissioner from the City of New Rochelle, Robert Gazzola.
Thank you. Good morning. I'd first like to thank the Westchester County District Attorney, Mimi Roca, her office, the Westchester County Department of Public Safety, the FBI, and all the other local agencies that participated in this operation. Like many municipalities in our area, the City of New Rochelle is not immune to guns and gun violence. It is through collaborative efforts between law enforcement agencies like Operation Casper, that helps us all address this alarming trend. As Mimi mentioned just a few moments ago, that we in New Rochelle lost a 16-year-old to gun violence at the hands of another 16-year-old. It's alarming. The city of New Rochelle is still hurting from this, and these are the kind of operations that we hope will help rid our city and our area of those kind of needless acts. On a personal note, I'd like to thank Captain Collins Coyne of our Criminal Investigations Division, Lieutenant Detective Brian Fagan, Detective Sergeant Sean Kane, and Police Officer Alec McKenna, who works through the RTC with the Westchester County. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Gazzola. At this time, I'd like to ask if there are any questions that you want answered. I'm also going to ask maybe Chief Hodges to come forward. Chief Hodges is the chief over all of the investigations that take place pertaining to the Westchester County Department of Public Safety, so I'm sure if he doesn't have the answer, he'll point you in the right direction. Chief, any questions? Mr. Iola.
What do you do with these guns now to see if they were involved in the commission of any crimes?
You can see that there's a large volume of weapons here. So as part of the investigation, all of the weapons will be examined here by ballistics investigators, and they'll all be launched into a database that's actually a national database. It's going to take some time, but we will go through every one of these weapons, as well as any ammunition and magazines that we recovered, to do exactly that, to see if they can be or are traced back to any other incidents where that weapon or ammunition may have been used.
Can you talk at all about how you determine who to target?
Well, the first thing I have to say is that we're very fortunate here in Westchester, across all the different agencies, as everybody had mentioned, that I've had the good fortune to work with a lot of very, very smart, intelligent people, investigators. I have to thank NYPD. I think they're here. They came up, they provided us with some training. We picked their brain, as the DA alluded to back in June. We put together a task force to address violent crime, and NYPD helped us out with that. And then it was a matter of working with the investigators. Again, I can't get into specifics. A lot of these investigations are still ongoing. But the District Attorney's Office and the U.S. Attorney's Office gave us some very valuable guidance. The investigators worked on this, and you talk about precision policing. I mean, there was a lot of work drilling down on this. So this had a very wide scope. Again, it's regional in nature. We worked with Putnam, with Rockland on this. Obviously, we live in a world now between communications and transportation. You know, sometimes issues that take place or affect one county can emanate from another one. So it really was a painstaking process of looking at this from a very wide perspective, and then being able to drill down and to get to the point where we were able to establish the search warrants that we were able to get, and the persons of interest that had, obviously, you know, it's a painstaking process, and we could have gone on and on and on, but the 6-month investigation culminated, you know, with this.
Where were the search warrants executed?
Well, you know what? I would refer you to Kieran on that. There were numerous. So in Westchester here, there were numerous search warrants that were executed. Some of which, in fairness, we had to look for people who either worked or were in different locations. So right now, I don't have specifics on it, but it was regional. Putnam, Rockland, and in Westchester, and there were numerous. So there were in Westchester there were 8 different locations.
Any other questions? No? Well, I think that all investigative efforts to remove illegal guns from the streets are going to work, or actually will probably work alongside the state police and any other entity. As you can see here, we're well represented. Almost every agency in Westchester County has officers, detectives, investigators assigned to the RTC, along with our own analysts. So any sort of investigation, if it comes to us here in the county of Westchester, we'll be more than happy to work with those individuals, whether it's on the local level, the state level, or even our federal partners, FBI, DEA. Do you know how many are ghost guns?
There's a multiple answer to that question. So our initial estimate is anywhere from a quarter to a half right now. Now, every location, I can tell you this, every location we went to, we discovered a ghost gun, or like a P80, we would call it, or something that was made with components. We have to go through each and every one of those. So right now, initial estimates was up to a half of these could be either partial or built by components. We also had some locations where we did get just parts and components. That's going to depend now. We have to go through each and every one of these to look at serial numbers and the various components to see if in fact what we have here was put together. But right now, initial estimates is that up to half are what you would call ghost guns or polymer 80s that were built by components. Well, the term ghost gun initially came up, and hence Operation Casper. The ghost gun was because of the fact that the guns could not be traced. So that means that there's not serial numbers on either portions of or on the entire gun. So that would include, there's different components to the gun. So there's the receiver, and there's the barrel and the slide. So the ghost gun term was originally for guns that could not be traced. As time has gone on, the term you'll hear is 80-20s or polymer 80s. Some of the laws are being changed now to adjust those. People could buy, and hence the painstaking process of this investigation, looking at various dealers, not just here in New York, but all over the country, where people could purchase components. So the gun is not whole, hence it's not a 100% operational gun. It could only be, say, it's missing that 20%. However, part of this investigation was looking at those people who were using tools and mechanisms to then complete that process and make the gun fully functional.
Okay, if that's it with the questions, I just want to thank our law enforcement partners once again.
One last question, Terry. You run a police department in Westchester County, you've been around a long time. Can you talk about the atmosphere of cooperation and the breaking down of silos and rivalries today versus when you were a rookie cop?
Well, you're trying to date me, huh, Tony? But okay. I started policing in 1984. As far as the relationships, there were always interagency relationships. However, they were never as strong as they are now. And the majority of the investigations, I would say, that cross lines from one community to the next. There's always cooperation with our law enforcement partners. We even cross now Westchester into Rockland, into Putnam. You see the Putnam County Sheriff is here. So I think we all understand that in order to accomplish more, we have to work together. And that's what I've seen over the years, Tony. I've seen a lot of collaborations between agencies, whether it's on the local, state, or even the federal level. So thanks again to all of our law enforcement partners who were able to make it today, our district attorney, our county executive, from the Board of Legislators, Mr. Nolan, James Nolan, and a special acknowledgement to each and every investigator and detective who worked in the Real-Time Crime Center to help bring this case to fruition. Thank you very much.